Morning, everyone. Yeah, just waiting for a couple more people to join, and then I'll start very swiftly with run through to today's demo introduction to FE Analytics. Cool. So I'll get started. So yeah, hi again, everyone. Thanks for joining today's call. As I said, yeah, today is part of our Demo Day Wednesday series, which we've introduced, basically designed to introduce everybody to our range of software solutions at FE Fund Info. Today, I'm introducing you to FE Analytics. There are other calls in the series throughout, the next few Wednesdays here that are going to cover our other solutions such as FE Cash Calc and Advisor Asset. To introduce myself, I'm Will Taplin. I'm one of the BDMs here on the advisor side at FE Fund Info. I've been at the company for a few years, so have quite a good understanding in the way that advisors are using our features. Yeah, as I said, today's call is to go over analytics, and here's the agenda. So I'm not going to go through these in order necessarily, but what we want to try and do, as opposed to achieve for you guys as well, if so, we've got people who are joining the call who are existing users, new advisors who haven't seen the system before, but to go over some of the basic navigation, so finding your way through analytics, how to create charts, how to create reports, etc., building comparisons. So whether that's comparing, proposed solutions against existing investments, comparing funds, comparing portfolios, etc. Reporting, there's a number of reporting tools on the system, and health check reports to run on client portfolios, as well as that risk profiling and our integration. So yeah, I'll run through how each of those work, as I said, to try and hopefully be able to kind of show everybody things that they've not seen before. One thing just to bear in mind, I think to note just on the call itself, I think at the end of the session, we're going to try and run through a few questions. So there is a question box in the top right hand corner. So if anybody has any questions at any point, yeah, please feel free to put them in the question box. I'll try and answer them at the end if we've got time. I'll try and keep the session to 45 minutes. If not, I'll endeavour to get back to you on like a one-on-one basis. So any questions on the system at any point, yeah, please feel free to ping them into the box in the right hand corner, top right. So before jumping into analytics, I'm just got a couple of quick slides to give you an introduction as to who we are at FE Fund Info. So ultimately, FE Fund Info is a data house, really. So we collect, aggregate, validate loads and loads of investment data. We therefore have clients in both the institutional and advisor spaces. So as you can see on the screen here, yeah, these are the ways we serve the investment ecosystem. We've got 1,000+ fund managers use the systems, bankers, brokers, 30+ platforms, life and pension providers, over 4,000 financial advice and power planning firms currently use analytics, and that's again building all the time. And as well as that, we've got over 300 third parties and partners. So kind of ultimately we sit then in the space basically to bridge the gap between the wider asset management industry and the advice market. So I suppose our purpose is to collate the data and then use that to then service the advice industry. So, we do that through products such as FE Analytics, TrustNet, FinExcel, data feeds to other platforms and websites, etc. So the solutions that we provide then we collectively refer to as the Advice Hub, which is our own ecosystem. So the Advice Hub is basically designed to be the bit between the back end where all of your client data is stored, and then the platforms or providers, custodians, etc., where your clients' investments are actually held. So we're then designed to do all of that part in the middle. So across the range of solutions, from as I said, cash calc, analytics, advisor asset. Now, the idea is that the Advice Hub will be able to enable you to do everything from onboarding to gathering fact find information, risk profiling, fund portfolio research, building cash flow models, doing comparisons, pension consolidations, platform due diligence. We basically sit in the space in the middle of those two. kind of areas there. So as I said, all the solutions combined then are designed to integrated together as well, designed to fill that space. So whilst also being integrated to the back office systems and the platforms as well. So as I mentioned, today's call is focused on analytics. So as I said, analytics is our fund and portfolio research tool. Used by, I think it's around 80% of advisors are using the data already in analytics at the moment. In terms of the database, it's absolutely huge. There's over 300,000 funds you can enable or you can access the data for within analytics. Huge range of sectors, indices, portfolios. We've got data for MPS solutions in here, as well as that UK and US equity data. You'll find investment trusts, ETFs, so a real broad range of investments you can research within the analytics system. And I've just opened up the screen for you, and all of that data there is basically served up within this interface. So the screen I'm on now is basically the analytics home screen, effectively, and actually from this screen where you can do the majority of your research as an advisor. So initially, what I'm going to do is start with the basics and navigation. So as I said, I'm aware that there are completely new people on the call as well as existing users. So I'll try over the course of the next kind of 35-40 minutes to show as I said, some of the basics, but also then teach some people some useful things as well. So that's the idea. As I said, with analytics, this is basically the home screen that you see whenever you first log in, and it's from this screen actually the majority of advisors do most of their research. And essentially, it's basically your job as the user of the system to tell the system what it is you want to see, really. So we see analytics as a design tool. So whatever the outputs that you want to produce are, you'll be able to do it. You just need to tell the system what it is you want to see and how you want to see it. So in terms of basic navigation, as I said, this is the home screen you see whenever you first log in. And you can effectively split this screen down the middle or slightly off center to the right, where you have these tabs on the left-hand side, which are effectively your inputs. So this is basically what you want to do your research on as the advisor. So you've got tabs here for instruments, is where you find individual funds, equities, investment trusts, etc., sectors, indices, filters, portfolios. And then on the right-hand side, you've got your outputs. Essentially, there's 3 tabs that are how you want to present the data. So if I was going to do a very basic example initially now of how to run something, like a performance line chart, all I need to do is go to the instruments tab here. If I'm going to look at something very basic like one of the life strategy funds, so they're very common and we see a lot of advisors using Vanguard Life Strategy. To search for the funds initially, I can just go in there and plug in the name of the fund. I can search in the codes, so the system will recognize anything from ISIN, CEDOL, city codes, etc. Or alternatively, I can go into there to the drop-down group, find the relevant fund manager in here, find the fund and add it into my list. So in this instance here with Life Strategy, all I need to do is type in the name of the fund group in the search bar, hit enter, go to my drop down list, and then find the relevant fund I want to use. So in this instance, perhaps I want to have a look at the Vanguard Life Strategy 60% fund. Hit that, press add, and that's going to pull it through here into my active list. And the active list is basically the list of instruments you're looking to research or analyze at any one time. So if I wanted to add in an index on top of that for maybe benchmarking purposes, or I wanted to add in a portfolio on top of that, again, all I would need to do is go into the relevant tabs, find the instrument I want to then compare it with, add it into my list, and then on the right hand side, I just want to then essentially choose how I want to present the data or produce the content at the end. So under the charts tab, the performance line chart is the most commonly used report on the system. I think there was almost nearly 6 million charts run on analytics in 2024. As I said, line charts probably the most common of those. If I'm just going to keep it really simple initially, and all I want to do then is run a performance line chart on this fund to see how it performed over a 5-year period. I'll leave my chart type selected as a line chart. Underneath that, select my performance period. Again, we've got like a number of built-in options down there. When you're going to run these performance periods, you can, of course, go in there and add in user-specified dates. So if you've got instances where you're looking to say, I've got a client who invested X amount on a specific date, what is that worth today, or would it be worth today? I can go in there, add in those periods as well. But if I'm just looking to run a line chart over a 5-year period, then press generate. The system will do exactly that. So it's just the case then of, I suppose, of pushing the 2 sides together. So I've found the investment, I've chosen how I want to present the data, and the system will do the rest. So as I said, this is one of the basic performance line charts on the system. I've kept it to show the percentage change at the bottom there. Every report you run on analytics as well, you've got the option there to PDF it. So you'll see in the top left-hand corner of my screen, I've got the Your Advisor logo added within your account. So if you're, again, like new to the system and you want to have a trial on there, send us over the logos, we can get that added. Same with if you're an existing user. All the reports are white labeled, really popular then, so that you can, even something like this, I can take it out of the system, extract the report as a PDF, so I can then send it to clients, present it for compliance purposes to show why you choose in fund A over fund B, perhaps, as well. So it's a big value add, I think, from the client side. Even something as basic as the performance line charts, to allow them to kind of visualize the performance that you've been telling them already. As I said, throughout the call, what I'm going to try and do is kind of ramp it up in terms of the not necessarily complexity, but as I said, these are one of the most basic charts, but we'll try and go through then to show some of the more advanced ones as well towards the end of the call. Anytime you've added a fund, you notice, into the active list, so this is the list of instruments you're working off at any one time, there's an alert functionality in here. So again, if you've got funds as part of maybe like a watch list, or funds that you typically will use for your clients commonly, and you want to be notified whenever the performance changes, whenever the price changes, charges change, ratings change, anything like that, there's a really cool feature in analytics called the alerts function. So all I need to do is create an alert on a fund, click on that small bell icon when the fund is in my active list, and then on the left-hand side, I'll go in there and find the alerts that I want to then trigger. So say I want to be notified when the price of this fund falls by 10%, press add, and it pulls it through to the alert summary page. So anytime you create one of these reports, as I said, it's going to notify you when anything like that is triggered. So new documents, new ratings, etc., and then all the emails from them will be sent over to the email address associated with your analytics account. See, I've just run, as I said, this report initially on a fund. What we're actually starting to see more and more of as a trend really is for advisors to probably analyze portfolios of funds rather than just the individual funds. Any portfolio that you've got in analytics will be stored under this portfolios drop down. So all I would need to do is click on the portfolios drop down. Again, in the same way as I did earlier on, click on the drop down list. I can go and search in here as well to speed it up, to pull in the portfolios that I want to then analyze. Portfolios can be created manually, so I'll show you how to do that in a second, but they can also be imported from a range of CRM back office systems. So most of the main players in that space, Intelligent Office, Xplan, Curo, etc., and then again, like quite a range of platforms we integrate with directly as part of the kind of the integrated ecosystem. And what that basically allows you to do is take the portfolios from the back office systems, import them into analytics, and they'll pull through the holdings, the weightings as at the time of import, and it will save them for you in the analytics system without having to go through and manually build the portfolio. So really powerful tool for, as I said, pulling those in. You can then start to then chuck them into loads of different charts, reports, etc., without having to manually build the portfolios. And it is also just a massive time saver as well. So quite a few efficiency gains to be had there in that space with the integrations. So what I can do there, if I've got a client called Keith Baker and say I've imported him from my back office system, if I press add, again, that's going to pull his portfolio through into my active list. Just to the left of the name of the portfolio, we've got a fact sheet icon there that runs one of our medium scan reports, and these are really popular little health check reports you can run into portfolios. So again, that will work on anything that you've got saved as a portfolio, commonly used where in an instance like this, maybe I pulled in the portfolio from the back office system or the platform, and I want to get a bit more information on the composition, the asset allocations, how it's done against its benchmark, etc. So yeah, these medium scans, as I said, really popular little 2-page reports, give you a breakdown on who the fund managers are, what the weightings are. Crown ratings will pull through in here. Relatively newish features in the system here for the ESG analysis. So ISS ESG fund ratings pull through when the SDR requirements go live. We're hoping that the labels will be provided as well, so the boxes are there already. But as I said, yeah, ratios information, asset sector region splits, really powerful. I know that when you've got portfolios maybe on specific platforms or on the back offices or back office systems, you're not going to be able to find this information from those systems directly. But as I said, you can import them into analytics, hit that fact sheet page, and it's just going to generate within a couple of seconds. And I've configured my report here to show me the back tested performance of each of these portfolios against their benchmarks. And to show some of the relative holdings performance of each of the underlying funds. But with all of the reports and analytics, as I'll go through, they're kind of fully customizable as well. So you can tailor it just to show whatever it is you need to show. and you can take certain bits out, you can change the reports, etc. So that's the medium scan, and these are really popular. On portfolios, so again, one of the biggest trends we've seen from our side is the rise of advisors using MPS solutions, and it's I would say probably the majority of advisors that we speak to on a daily basis these days are using MPS solutions in some capacity as part of their CIP. And as I mentioned earlier on, we've got a wide range of MPS providers that you can access and analyze the data for within analytics. So if I expand the box here on the left hand side and go to my subheading portfolio tools, and then again select MPS directory, the directory essentially is the list of providers that we have access to the model data for. So again, all the main kind of players, or the majority of the main players in that space, will be available through the directory. I think there's 86 providers in there at the moment, so a couple of thousand models in theory that you'd be able to access within your account. And as I said, the MPS data, I think, in the system is unparalleled, really. So you can really go into and drill down into quite high levels of detail. So, we see quite often, say, for example, Timeline, really popular these days. If I wanted to access or enable my account with the Timeline model portfolios, I'll click on the name of the provider. Each provider then has their own little fact sheet page, tells you a bit about who they are, a bit about their models. And then in the bottom right-hand corner, you've got two options. So you can either request info. You might use that to say, please tell me a bit about more about your ESG models, perhaps. Put a question through. But if you want to be enabled with the models, you press activate me, put in your details there, tick this box, press submit, and then it pings it over. So that will then send a request over to the provider. You have their models listed in your account. Again, you get an email notification basically saying the models have been enabled. And then, as I said, you'll be able to then go into your portfolios dropdown, and you have all of the MPS solutions that you use as part of your CIP in your dropdown. And then you'll be able to start then plugging them into the charts, plugging into the reports. So really easy. So in my account here, you can see I've got a range of our own FE Invest models. So for the purpose of the call, what I'll do is I'll use these when I'm using some of the kind of the charts and the reports, etc. But just remember that it's part of the same logic. You'll be able to do anything that I do with the MPS, the FEI models rather than anything that you're using MPS wise from your end. So if I wanted to then recreate one of these line charts comparing my Keith Baker pension portfolio that I pulled in externally and the FEI model that we've enabled via the MPS directory, I can go again on the right hand side, leave it with performance line chart, select my period there for 5 years and press generate. And again, the system's going to do exactly the same things it did earlier on and build a line chart there that compares the two instruments side by side next to each other over that 5-year period. One thing that you'll see with MPS solutions, and if I zoom in slightly, it might be a bit clearer, is that the lines are slightly different. So if any MPS solution or any model that you've built changes into, you'll see there are a few slight differences on the line charts themselves, in that there's a few small squares periodically throughout the period. So my green line there that's showing me the performance of my FEI model has a number of small squares throughout the period. What those small squares represent is whenever a change has been made to a model portfolio. So, one advantage of that is that then means that whenever you do any performance analysis on these MPS solutions, you're looking at a true reflection of how the model's done over time. It's not just taking the current weightings and just working backwards. All of that information is built into the system already for you, so you don't need to worry about that. But if you wanted to go into kind of like another layer of detail on that, there's a really cool tool in the line charts function called chart options, which basically allows you to kind of show basically what would have happened had no changes been made post a certain date on a model, and it's really powerful then to be able to show your clients actually you're paying extra for this MPS solution of whatever the charge is, but this is the actual benefit of doing that, and this is the increase or in growth in terms of the performance, or even if just keeping it in line with the risk profiles that you were at initially. So if I go into here again, so I'm just going to rerun this chart without the Keith Baker pension in it, and then go to options here, chart options. All of these dates there correspond now with the charts, with the squares within the line chart. So if I go back to the very first one, tick that box, I'm going to change the color green as well, press OK. What the system's now going to do is basically draw me a second line that shows you that this model would have performed this well had no subsequent changes been made since the launch date. But again, I'm only looking over that 5-year period. In that instance there, you can see this one is pulled through, actually is increased the performance from that regardless of the subsequent changes. But again, you can use these tools to say that's showing me, or showing the client there that the active management is actually rebalancing it maybe in line then with the current risk profiles. But the yeah, as I said, the chart options tool is a really popular one for doing that kind of comparison and that analysis. There may be times on the system where you need to manually build portfolios. Yeah, for example, it's not on the CRM. It's maybe for like a potential new client that, your prospect client that you want to build their portfolio in on the system to then compare with your own solutions. That's a very common use case for the portfolio building tool. So or again, actually, if it's part of your own, one of your own models that you build, the process for building portfolios, again, is quite straightforward, works like a lot of the rest of the system, left to right. Initially, what you do is go to the portfolios tab, select new portfolio, and then go in here on the left hand side to build the portfolio. So initially it's the same with whenever you search for funds individually. You do the same in the portfolio building tool. You need to select the universe first. I tend to have Unit Trust and OEICs as my default one. If you're looking for maybe specific pension funds, maybe you've got a client here who's got a pension with Scottish Widows maybe. I know that the client's got a few of their funds in there. Click on the provider within the pensions drop down list, and then again maybe I just go and pick out the funds. But as I said, it works left to right like a lot of the rest of the system. So it's going in there, finding the funds on the left hand side, pressing the small grey icon to add them over to the right hand side, where you can go and add in the weighting under the portfolio content section. Again, I could go in here and search for individual codes. So I'm just going to change the universe to show you what this would look like. But say I've got an ISIN code, a CDOL code, or a city code like this one, I can go and plug that in here, find the fund I'm looking for, press add, pull it through. There is also a really powerful tool on the home screen called the bulk code importer, which is really useful again in instances like this, maybe where you've got, say I'm building a client's portfolio that I can't import, but it's got 10, 15 funds in it. Rather than finding them all individually in the portfolio builder tool, you can actually bulk upload them, a list of the ISIN codes or a list of the CDOL codes. The system will then recognize them and pull them in using this green icon here to import from the active list. So when I'm building a portfolio, I think in most cases for most advisors, you're going to be looking to add the weightings in using either the monetary amount or the number of units. So you can flip on the top right hand corner how to basically store the holdings, and then the system will then calculate the weightings for you. So if I've got a valuation in front of me of this client's existing pension, I go in there, I can go and add in what the values of each of those funds are. As I said, the system will then calculate the weightings for me. And once that's done, in theory, what I can do is basically press save, give the portfolio a name, and then that's it. A couple of things you might want to do before doing that is add in anything like additional charges. So whenever you're producing like a line chart, any kind of report that shows the performance in it, the fund performance is basically always quoted net of the charges. So whether that's the OCF, the AMC, TER, etc., they're already pre-built into the system, but anything additional isn't. So anything like a platform fee or an advisor fee, so whether it's your ones that you want to reflect in the charts, or even if it's like a client with an existing advisor, you want to reflect their charges in there on the portfolio that you're doing the comparison for. You can use the portfolio builder tool to build in the additional charges at the top here using portfolio settings. So if I click on settings, go into the additional charges box there, say I know the client's got an advisor, or maybe I charge 0.5, their platform charge is 0.25. I'm going to go and add in the additional charge of 0.75, press OK, press save, give the portfolio a name, and that'll then store it on the system for you underneath the portfolio dropdown. Another point in this as well, actually, especially if you're building in, or you're going to be manually building quite a few portfolios, is that the benchmark by default on the system pulls through as the FTSE All Share. You can change that to anything. So you want to change that to one of the thousands of indices in the system, you can do that. You want to change it to use a sector average, I can go into sectors, pick out mixed investment, 40 to 85% shares perhaps, press this downwards arrow, hit add as benchmark, that's going to update it. And what that does also is that whenever I pull through any of the scan reports or a couple of the other reports I'll show you in a moment, it basically just ensures that you'll benchmark it against something maybe then relative or relevant to the portfolio and its own risk level. As I said, yeah, no restrictions where that space is. Indices, if you go to the top indices tab within your account as well, you should have a range of all of the top or most commonly used indices again in there. So you might think, well, for this one, MSCI World is more appropriate. Maybe this is quite diversified or whatever. Go in there, press add as benchmark, and it's going to change it then in the right hand side. On this point as well, when you're in the portfolio builder, there is a tool in the top right hand corner called the historical dynamic portfolio tool, and what this basically allows you to do is build in historical changes into the system. So I'm not going to go over it now because it's a bit more of a, as I said, a bit more of an advanced feature on here, but I'm sure in maybe one of the later demo day Wednesdays calls, we'll probably, we can go over that for you. But as I said, there's a tool in there, Convert to Historic Portfolio. Essentially, it works in the same way, but rather than adding in the current values, what I'll do is go and add in the dates that the changes were made, and then you go and record in the system what changes were made on a specific date, and then you say what the values were of those funds at that time, and then the system will then, like it does with the MPS solutions, kind of carve out like a line chart for you that reflects the changes. So the way that actually looks, if I go back onto my home screen here, click on the FEI model, you'll see in the top right hand corner, the way that all of the MPS solutions build in their changes are essentially the same. So you go and add in the dates, go and add in the changes on those dates. You then also have a historic record of what changes were made then on at what time. So so that's basically the process, as I said, for building in those historical changes. Going back to the home screen then, so I've just really focused on the line charts so far. There's a number of other charts that are, again, really popular for kind of portfolio comparison purposes, which I'll show you now. So one of them is the scatter chart. So I'll probably say this is probably the second most commonly used chart on the system, and these ones are great for showing a client maybe where their existing portfolio sits, and maybe amongst a range of either funds or portfolios as part of your CIP. So again, if I'm going to use my client here, Keith Baker, I'm going to add his portfolio into my list, and then as well as that, I might choose to add in, say, the range of FE Invest model portfolios that we use here. I'm going to use the medium term ones only, add them into my list. What I always like to do here is change the colors. I think it makes it look a bit slicker when you do it at the end. 2 seconds. And then scatter chart. So again, these are great for not only just showing the performance only, but also factoring in the volatility. I could plug all of these instruments into a line chart, and you might see Keith Baker comes out around where the risk level 2 or the risk level 3 is. And you might think, well, that's good, that's the comparison point. But he might be taking way more risk than those portfolios, and without producing something like a scatter chart, you're not going to be able to show that. So as I said, the scatter charts are really powerful. Again, on the right hand side, all I've done is change my chart type from line chart to scatter chart, and I've added in the performance period again and press generate chart. And as I said, it's just a case of matching the two sides together. So with something like this, what you'll see again is kind of really powerful is that you can then kind of, as I said, kind of carve out how the client's current portfolio sits along maybe the range of investments that you're recommending for them. And when you added the colors in, like I've done there, or changed the colors, you can see kind of efficient frontier curve. We're going from F, which is the risk level 1 or most defensive portfolio, up to A, which is risk level 5, most adventurous. As each of those portfolios increases in volatility, it also increases in performance. So the behavior of all of these is maybe as you would expect to see. And if I've built in Keith Baker's existing portfolio in here, and you can see that's the black square D, and I'm comparing it maybe with one of our MPS solutions that we want to recommend him. If I'm looking vertically on there, you can see that the annualized volatility of his portfolio is actually more or less aligned to the risk level 4 portfolio. Again, if I look then horizontally across, his performance is in between risk levels 2 and 3. So it's quite a good way of showing the clients, maybe if you then consider moving over into portfolio C as a comparison point over the last 5 years, that's taken a lot less volatility than your current portfolio, but it's also increased performance. So these are great, as I said, for comparing where a client's portfolio sits along a range or a curve of investments. You can also, with the scatter charts, if I remove these, is use it to show the the performance and volatility of a portfolio as a whole. So if I go and run something like this, what it will do then is it basically will plug in all the underlying funds within this portfolio and also pull through the portfolio itself. Might have been so normally it will pull through as a separate color, but what I'd be able to highlight then to these clients is that your current portfolio here, Keith, is E. You'll see that the majority of those funds actually, when you look at the chart, have greater volatility than that, but because of the diversification within those funds, the actual volatility of the portfolio as a whole has been reduced to where it is there. So a couple of different ways you can use that. Again, as I said, a really popular tool. Thirdly, again, regarding the chart type, so the regular savings and withdrawals one is also great. So very similar to a line chart, but actually what this tool allows you to do is factor in either adding in a regular investment into one of the portfolios you're looking at, or doing a regular withdrawal from the same. So As I said, what I can do over here on the right hand side, where my outputs are select regular savings and withdrawals. Say I wanted to run this over a 10-year period, and I was trying to show my client or highlight to my client, what would it have looked like had you invested £500 a month in this pension portfolio over the last 10 years? All I need to do is change the investment option on the right hand side to savings. I did my regular amount. I'm going to start this one from 0 and press generate chart. And I could also then map in, any other portfolios for comparison purposes. So you might think, well, that's great. That's how you would have done it with your existing pension portfolio, Keith. But what would it look like if I compared that with the MPS solution that I'm recommending for you? And I go back into here again, add that into my list, change the color, and press generate chart. You've got a really nice chart then that actually factors those in. So this one is almost like doing a back-tested cash flow scenario, but as I said, it allows you to back-test the instance of adding those regular savings in. And another reason I think that it's also really popular with a lot of advisors is that it's not necessarily all that common that somebody comes to you with a massive lump sum that you can then go and invest. I think it's probably, as I said, more common that you've got clients then who are either drip feeding as part of like a phased or a regular investment into their plans, and you can also use analytics to compare solutions on that basis. So as I said, those are the 3 most commonly used charts in your accounts. Feel free to go in there and have a play around with the other ones in there. Moving on to some of the kind of the reporting functionality, there's a really good report in analytics called the portfolio comparison report, which kind of bridges the gap between part of the agenda there, where I was going to go through the comparison tools, but also some of the reporting tools. The portfolio comparison report essentially does both within one document. So I might have used some of the charting functionality there to kind of drill down into 2 of these, where I'm going to recommend client moves maybe from portfolio, Keith Baker's pension portfolio to the FE Invest risk level 4 portfolio. I want to do a bit more detailed analysis on these 2 portfolios without having to run all of those individual reports or charts rather. If I get to my reports tab on the right hand side and change the report type from custom table, what it is by default, to portfolio comparison. Under here, I just need to then select the 2 portfolios I want to compare. So for this report, actually, you can effectively ignore the active list. It's probably the easiest one to run on the system, but it's also one of the most popular for advisors. Again, for time-saving purposes, so really easy then to go and do like a really neat portfolio analysis between 2 portfolios. And again, this will work with anything that you've got saved as a portfolio. So I could have pulled this in from as I said, the back office system that I'm using. I can enable my system with the MPS solution that I'm using and just press generate report. And then within a couple of seconds there, I've got a really detailed report that puts the 2 portfolios side by side next to them. And again, like I did with the medium scan earlier on, I can configure it to show exactly what I need it to show when I'm doing these comparisons. So as I said, we see a lot of advisors using these to show clients, again, to add value, to say this is why I'm recommending you move from A to B, and also then using it for compliance purposes to say this is why I'm going to recommend this switch. So I've got Keith Baker's portfolio on the left-hand side. I've got the MPS solution on the right-hand side I'm going to recommend he moves into. And this should show you the top 5 holdings. If I press all holdings there, it's going to then expand them. So I've got a list of all of the full holdings in there. One thing the system also does do in this section here is actually pulls through the weighted OCFs of the portfolios. So these sections there, referred to as portfolio expense, essentially is the weighted charge of all of the underlying funds. So again, just from this report, I'll be able to highlight, well, your current portfolio, Keith, the funds are actually quite expensive. You're paying 1.05, whereas the MPS solution we're recommending for you, the charges are actually a lot less than that. It's 0.37. And that's, again, one of the reasons we're recommending you move from A to B. Going through the report, then I can just jump straight into the performance. Over here, I'm showing you that we've doubled your performance over the last 5 years. With these, as I said, they're all customizable. So if you think I'm going to show something maybe over a longer period of time, if I press that downwards arrow now, I can then configure the chart to show me since the start date of the youngest portfolio. Now we're looking back over 13 or so years, and the performance difference is even greater. We've got the performance of each of the portfolios against their own benchmarks, the volatility again. So in this instance here, I could highlight that your current portfolio is taking more risk or is more volatile than your existing one, and the performance is worse. So maybe it's a no-brainer to move over. But you've also got the asset, region, and sector allocations below there as well. So it's really easy to then do a quick analysis between where these 2 portfolios broken down. Mentioning a couple of our other products or other software solutions, we're working on an integration that hopefully should be live fairly soon. It's going to link analytics and cash calc further. And what you'll actually be able to do then is take this asset class data breakdown and actually export that into cash calc over a set period of time. And what the system will then do, I think it's going to be use a stochastic model to run X number of simulations there to calculate a projected growth rate over the time period you're looking at, which will then be designed so that you can then take out of that an annualized performance figure to actually use within the cash flow modeling tool as well. So that's a really exciting development we're looking forward to introducing hopefully in the near future. But I'm sure we'll make some noise over that. As I said, yeah, portfolio comparison is really powerful for doing that direct analysis, and it doesn't necessarily have to be two, completely different portfolios. You might even have something that you've got for the clients at the moment. You just go and build a new portfolio in there where you recommend that they move a couple of funds around, amend the weightings, etc. Plug in the portfolios into this comparison report. Really good, and you can PDF and take them out of there. When you've got portfolios in the, as I said, in the home screen, like I've got here, I ran the medium scan earlier on, which is the quick 2-page report into the portfolio. There's two different versions of the, or two other versions of the scans you can also run in here. So there's a short version of that and a long scan version of that. The long scan is great if you're a client, or if you've got clients rather who are really interested in that level of detail. The long scan is basically a 5-page version of the short report. The medium report. The short scan is a 1-page version. So it's a lot like the headline kind of portfolio as a whole info. So it gives you a breakdown of performance, risk score, asset weightings, performance against the benchmark, etc. But I won't let it the long scan one because it's as I said, it's a 5-pager. But yeah, feel free to jump in and have a play around with that. There is also another really powerful tool in analytics called the Custom Portfolio Report Builder, which is probably a bit more, it's a bit more of a sophisticated report, designed again for maybe showing clients or building reports for clients in like an annual report style document. What you do initially on the Custom Portfolio Report Builder, when you go into there first, what the system allows you to do is build yourself a template. So click on template, click on report builder under the new option, and you've got, again, like the rest of it, left to right, where you go in there and find all the report types that you want to then build into the final report. So under here, you've got all of these reports. You can go in there and preview each of them. So as I said, each of these report types is just going to be one of the pages, ultimately the end of the report. So go in there. Each time you highlight one of the rows, you can click into it and preview it. So as I said, it's just a case then here of building a report that you're going to be then using for your client. So I can go in there, find all the relevant report types that I want to use, and you just press this little green icon to add them over into the right hand side to build out what you need. And again, you can build as many templates as you want. So we often use an example here of having a gold standard template that's really comprehensive. You might use it for the high net worth clients, or even just the clients who are particularly interested in how their portfolio is done, and then having like a silver and a bronze version that's a bit more maybe dumbed down. Again, add in everything you want as part of the template, press save, give it a name, and then again you can go and plug in any of the portfolios that you've got in analytics into that template. So on the right hand side there, all I need to do is select my template I want to use, action on the portfolio that I want to use. And a couple of things you can do here again that are really popular with advisors is add in a couple of features there that mean you can then personalize it for a particular client. So for this one here, I've put in Keith Baker Review 2025. I put in his name. I've added myself as the advisor, so my name pulls through on the final report. Chosen to highlight the quartiles, adding the benchmark, etc. And then all you do then is press generate report down below. For this one, just because they take a few seconds to generate, I've loaded one up I built earlier. But essentially, this is what the report looks like. So again, this is the cover page I've added in there, all fully white labeled, tells you who the report's for, when you've done it, etc. Then going through there, I've added in the commentary page, show you what that looks like. You can add as much text as you want. So, we have advisors who use it then to put in a bit of information about, market commentary, how the models are doing, even if it's just kind of small talk, conversational stuff. Plug that into the commentary page and it pulls through and it gives it like a nice, I suppose, personalized feel for the clients again as well to add value for them. But yeah, going through the report, it's just essentially all of the pages then that I've included within my template. So you've got the portfolio summary, which shows you how the portfolio is against its own benchmark. I've got the underlying fund performance in there. I've chosen to highlight the quartiles as well, so I can see where they performed against their own sectors. Yeah, as I said, it's essentially just everything that I've then included within my template report. As I said, yeah, custom report builder, really powerful tool, really popular for doing those more detailed, kind of more comprehensive reports. And I've included all the KID documents and the fact sheets at the end as well, which you can also do to tick that compliance box to show that you've provided them to your clients. One of the kind of final parts of the system as part of the agenda we're going to cover there is the going over the risk profiling tool in analytics. So we've got a tool in here pre-built in called the Investment Planner, which is our risk profiling tool. And again, I think we'll probably get a call booked in, sorry, a call scheduled rather at some point to go over this in a bit more detail, but I'll try and kind of cover it in 5 minutes or so. But essentially, it's our end-to-end risk profiling tool that uses the E-value questionnaire. And again, it's really easy to run. Basically, takes 3 individual kind of steps, I suppose. So initially, what you need to do is build the plan or create the plan. So again, I'm going to use my trusted client here, Keith Baker. Create the plan initially. So that just involves giving it a name, finding the existing portfolio the client's invested in, so I can do a comparison there with what he's currently got, and then selecting the tax wrapper. So in here, I can go to his settings, current portfolio, add in the Keith Baker pension portfolio, and then go through. The second phase of this process is essentially to basically do the questionnaire with the client and then generate the risk profile for them. So we use the E-value risk questionnaire. In this step here, you can then decide how you want to complete the questionnaire with the client. So there's an option in there to skip the questionnaire manually manually set the risk level. I think as per the FCA guidance, as long as you've had the conversation, you can go in there and do that. Honestly, that doesn't. Yeah, I don't think that happens very often. Most advisors on the system tend to use these options here: start questionnaire or email to client. If you're using this questionnaire with clients on CashCalc, the ATRQs are now linked. So as part of the onboarding on CashCalc, you can send over the fact find, you can send over documents, but you can also send over the ATRQ. And you can now go into the client profile on the CashCalc system and export their ATRQ results into the Investment Planner tool. And then you can kind of pick up the tool basically in here at the kind of the third or final stage there to find the relevant risk profiles, so find the relevant portfolios that match the client's risk profile based on your CIP. So you see here there's 13 questions, all risk-based, kind of standard, what you might expect to find within a risk questionnaire. The final questionnaire is the what is your investment term one. This one actually has the biggest impact on the overall kind of risk bandings as well as the asset allocation. So with clients with there might be a three medium rather, but if they're like a moderate, come out as a short-term or a long-term investor are going to have massively different levels of risk appetite. So click continue. System's then going to work out what the risk profile is for the clients. Really powerful document here that will generate called the possibility of losses document, which gives you a bit more of a or give the client even a bit more of an understanding about what that means. So I think for most clients they're a moderate, if you tell them you're a 3 medium term, that isn't going to mean too much. But the document here gives you a bit of a description on what that means. It shows you the asset class breakdown. You've also got the historic portfolio journey based on this asset class performance over the last 20 years. And then also the likelihood of a max drawdown event as well taking place down there in the bottom right hand corner. But this document here that you can weave in at the end there is basically designed to then spark further conversations on things like capacity for loss and knowledge and experience. So these sections here, you can go in then and fill those out. As it says, don't have a direct impact on the risk result, but basically shows that you've had those further questions with the clients, because what that then allows you to do once you've got the computer's results is actually say, well, based on the additional questions here, maybe this client is a former trader or something like that, and they've invested in stocks before. You might think, and based on the capacity for loss questions where it's not like don't have any dependents, isn't a significant proportion of their wealth, etc. You might then choose to say, well, he's pulled out as a 3 out of 5 on the risk profiles, but based on this information, I'm going to then move them to a 4 out of 5 because of the further information and because of the additional conversations that we've had. The system then allows you to do that down there. So you can go in there and manually adjust the risk result. In this instance here, I'm just going to press yes, I agree. And then kind of the final step of the process, as I said, you can export then to CashCalc as well, is to find then the suitable portfolios that match. So this section here is basically, it's based around your CIP in the analytics system. So whether you're using MPS solutions or you've built your own models in there, it will then pull through the portfolios and that match that risk banding. So for this client, I know that he's moderate, medium term, 8 to 15 years. So he's a 3 medium. On the risk bandings, should have said they're all 1 to 5, short, medium, long term. So effectively, there's 15 outputs you can get here, and this one is kind of bang in the middle. But it gives you the indicative FE risk score banding of 65 and 75. If you use TrustNet, you'll be familiar with the risk scores, but essentially they show you the relative risk of an instrument compared to the FTSE 100. And I've also then, because I've pulled through the client's current portfolio, you'll see that at the bottom there. So I can see Keith Baker's current pension. He's in a portfolio there with a risk score of 100. That's obviously a lot higher than the banding that we've been provided there. And what you can then use this system to do then is go and build out or find the portfolios that match that. So if the life strategy portfolios are part of your CIP, I can go in there and select 60%. That's it within my risk score banding. I can see that at the top there. Alternatively, if I'm using one of the FEI model portfolios and that's part of my CIP, I can go and select that. You can also at this stage, by the way, you can go back into the home screen. There's a really powerful fund filtering tool in analytics. You can go in there and search for funds by specific risk score banding, add in a load of other requirements and characteristics too. But yeah, a lot you can do. And then essentially the final step of the process here is to confirm the selection for the portfolio that you're going to then be using going forwards, and then complete the plan and piece together. So the final step of the process, as I said, is to piece together like a really nice slick report that basically gives you an overview of the full journey then from going from the start of the plan initially, completing their ATRQ with the client, getting their risk profile, and then showing them maybe why you recommend they move from A to B, or in reverse of that, I suppose. If you've already got them in a portfolio that matches, if you're running this every year as part of your suitability requirements, go in there, do the risk profile again, clients bang on what they need to be on, go in. So yeah, the final step, as I said, report center, add in all of the report types that you want to then use. Again, I've built one here earlier on just to show what it looks like, but yeah, similar to the custom portfolio report, cover page, ATRQ, all of the answers in there. We'll pull through again. That's the result for the client. They're a medium term, moderate. That's the typical asset allocation breakdown. And then again, everything that I've included as part of that final page. So there's a really detailed switching report in here that's really powerful, again, to basically outline the difference between where they currently are, where you're recommending they move into. We've got some detailed portfolio analysis, looking at the holdings breakdown, the ESG, the charges, etc. But yeah, essentially that's as I said, that's the risk profiling tool. There's a really detailed video on our YouTube channel that's really powerful called FE Analytics that covers this in a bit more detail. I know I've kind of gone through that in a bit of a whistle stop way, but yeah, again, any questions on the risk profiler, please, yeah, feel free to come through. But as I said, I know that's a bit of like a whistle stop tour of the system as a whole, but I think, yeah, kind of running towards the end of the time there. So I share my PowerPoint back again, sorry, and then I can come to the questions. So sorry, bear with me. Just gonna see if we've had any through. Yeah, so Jay just had a couple of questions in there. One of them, yeah, presumably there's euro setting for value. There is, yeah. So for if I go back into analytics again, you can set. I mean, you can individually on each of the on the charts, you can change the currency. The base currency from sterling to euros. Dollars, etc. There's ways you can do currency comparisons in here. So all of that information is actually stored within the analytics system again. So you can change the euro setting for values. You can also do that as your default preference in the account. So if you go to the top of the screen here, you can go into default, change your breakdown. Yeah, well, Caroline, on the question regarding the scatter chart, I'll ping you over another one after the call, just because I'm aware of the time. I don't want to run over because you go past anything. But yeah, as I said, yeah, thanks everybody for attending. I'm just going to share my screen here. So yeah, as I said, we'll be in touch to offer a one-on-one, so you can have with myself or one of the team basically to run through again maybe some of the more specific details on the system. If you want to explore our other products, we've got, as I said, Demo Day Wednesday calls on. I think next week is on Advisor Asset, which we recently acquired for platform product due diligence. There was one on CashCalc last week, but I think we're going to be kind of repeating the series going forward. So yeah, follow the QR code to register for any of those. And then again, yeah, if you want to connect on LinkedIn, we'll be sharing a lot of our kind of exciting development news and kind of work over the next for the next few weeks. But yeah, I'll keep this page open. As I said, I'll Caroline, I'll come back to your question separately, and then if anyone's got any additional questions further to the call, then feel free to reach out. But I'll keep the screen open for a couple of minutes just to end, and then go from there. But yeah, thanks everybody for attending.